It's Thursday, October 16th, 2025. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Watching this strong tropical wave, I'll show you how that kind of tries to develop somewhat as it approaches and then moves into the Caribbean. Plus, we've been dealing with some heavy rain from overnight in spots as expected. The tail end of this area right here moving by the northern and northeastern Caribbean. Some bigger storms back toward parts of the United States will eventually build in, and keeping an eye on this spot back toward Mexico, and still that spin near Bermuda in the Atlantic region of Canada. So we'll be covering that as well in this video. Here's a closer look as we swing back through the Caribbean. Of course, some additional really heavy rain, Guatemala and El Salvador. Scattered areas of rain for us, Jamaica, back through the Cayman Islands state through Haiti. Here's the active weather that we're going to see. And we've seen it overnight. St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, we've had some of not only the rain, but some thunderstorms may have woken you up. You could see some of this action right in through here. Still scattered to widespread rain, keeping an eye on St. Martin, St. Bart's, Antigua, Barbuda, and Anguilla, Puerto Rico. We're going to continue with that better chance of rain and storms, and still flaring up as we work our way back through the Dominican Republic and into Haiti. Now, here's that strong tropical wave out ahead of it, though. There is a pocket of some moisture. Some of this will start to feed in through the weekend, and then early next week, this area starts to move into the Eastern Caribbean, and then eventually, as it works its way into the Caribbean, there could be some development out of that. That's way down the road, but that's what we'll be tracking. Let me show it to you here. Here we are in the Caribbean. You get back through the Gulf. Here is this area we're watching that will be approaching us. Now, as we move out in time, this, by the way, is the European model, variations of the European model. This here, by the time we get into Sunday and Monday, this strong tropical wave starts to move in for some of us in the Eastern Caribbean. The good news is I'm not seeing any crazy development out of it, at least in the short term, but we will see that better chance of rain. So we'll monitor that flood threat together Sunday into early next week, and then eventually deep into next week. So this is 8 days from now. This is by Friday, not tomorrow, but the following Friday. The European model showing this moisture building. It's a combination of that strong tropical wave and the tail end of a front that will build up some moisture in the Caribbean, and then we'll just wait and see if this area does develop some and tries to lift to the north. Still not sure yet. Let you know what I know and what I don't know. That's way down the road, but I like to show you what I'm seeing. Here's a look at the Google DeepMind trying to show eventually something as well back in the central or western Caribbean. Either way, it looks to be a big blob of rain, which means it's going to be a spot that will no doubt need to track to see if it does develop. Now, here's the American model with this. Here we are through the Caribbean, and again, there's that strong tropical wave. I'll zoom down. We'll cover some of the rain and storms today, and here's that spot watching close to Mexico for some additional rain and the potential of some tropical development out of this. And then we'll zoom up to the north in just a second. All right, let's go out in time as we get into the weekend. You see ticking ahead Saturday into Sunday. Now, as we work our way into Sunday, we're going to see some of this moisture starting to pull in. The tropical wave still sitting over here, but I showed you some of that moisture out ahead of it. So we're going to see that rain chance building for us in the southeastern Caribbean on Sunday. And then as we work our way into Monday, Tuesday of next week, you can see the tropical wave moving in. Let me stop the clock right here as we work our way into Tuesday. The tropical wave moves into the eastern Caribbean, and we get that flow of rain back behind it. So giving you the heads up, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, St. Lucia, Barbados, we're going to get a much better chance of rain starting this weekend, really late this weekend into early next week. And then you can see some of that additional rain just kind of hanging out near Central America, keeping an eye on Jamaica. But as we work our way out in time, this here is by Friday. Again, not tomorrow, but the following Friday. So we're looking 8 days from now. The American model shows this buildup of rain sitting closer to Puerto Rico, a combination, right, of that strong tropical wave moving into the Caribbean, and we get these kind of fronts or systems to the north that also leave some moisture. Now, this is actually similar to the European model, showing some areas of rain. Now, the European model, though, has this sitting over here, the American model sitting over here. Either way, both models are picking up on this, showing a lot of additional rain. As far as development goes, still a wait and see. I was talking about that in yesterday's video. Some of the models long-term want to flare this up into a tropical storm or a hurricane. We're going to wait and see on that. There's so many variables in the atmosphere as we get down the road, but definitely an area to watch. Has my attention, and we'll be watching that together. Now, the short term, before I zoom around, I do want to show you the rain and storms. You can see that again as we go throughout the day. It's what we've been talking about today in particular, that increased chance of rain through parts of the northern Caribbean, scattered Cayman Islands and Jamaica. Here's the spot in the eastern Pacific that may or may not develop, but either way, it feeds in more moisture. Parts of southern Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and of course, parts of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. Additional rain, additional flooding. Keep me posted in the comments if you're watching from Central America as we watch this area here. Then by tomorrow, as we keep an eye on this, scattered areas of rain. You see the Dominican Republic getting brushed by some rain chance going down, but still a few St. Kitts and Nevis will be possible. There's that rain, Costa Rica and Panama as we watch this area here. Cayman Islands, we could see a couple showers around. Then as we work our way into Saturday, you see again just the tail end of some stuff that will give us some rain and storms, keeping an eye on what's going on over here. But there's that moisture already trying to sneak in. So watching that, Trinidad, for example, northeastern Venezuela, watching out for some rain and storms, monitoring this spot here. And then we swing back toward the Bahamas and Cuba, just some spotty showers in Cuba as we work our way into the upcoming weekend forecast. Same thing, Cayman Islands, same thing for us in Jamaica. Now the water temperatures, plenty warm, no doubt this time of year we're getting the cooling, right? Some spots in the Bahamas, swinging back toward the northern Gulf. Water temperatures are gradually going down, but overall, you see 30 degrees Celsius, 29 degrees Celsius. So we're talking about the middle 80s Fahrenheit. But overall, the water temperature is still plenty warm that if something kind of rides in over here, we need to watch that. But it's not just the water temperatures, it's what's going on above our heads as well. Now, the spot near Mexico, and this will continue to track kind of parallel to the coast. I'll monitor for development, but it will throw in some additional moisture as I was talking about. So watching parts of Central America back through Mexico. Now we're watching this, the Atlantic region of Canada. One spin over here kind of lends itself to a secondary spin. I'll show you that. And then some bigger storms starting to fire up coming out of Manitoba, the Great Lakes, some rain and storms with this next system. Then by tomorrow, you can see what happens here. Here's that spin right in through here. That almost redevelops. It'll keep the seas very high, and we'll watch this system working its way into Ontario, Quebec, over toward the Great Lakes. Then by the time we get into the weekend on Saturday, you can see a few things. Here's that spin building a little bit closer to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. I'll keep an eye on that. But this in here could trigger some storms, especially as we get into Sunday. And a new system, British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest rolling in. But you can see those storms at times, monitoring that Saturday into Sunday, giving you the heads up, Tennessee River Valley, watching that for some storms as this area just kind of works its way in. So a better threat of storms, parts of the southern U.S. watching that. There's that spin trying to move off the Avalon Peninsula, and here's that new system moving into parts of Canada and the northwest U.S. Now the seas stay elevated because of that spin near the Atlantic region of Canada and Bermuda, kind of redeveloping. You get a secondary spin around it. Seas stay on the high side, no doubt, across the Atlantic, not only short term but long term, because as we work our way into the weekend, into next week, that new tropical wave moves in, so we're watching those Atlantic passageways, and it will start to get choppier in the eastern Caribbean Sunday into Monday with some of that moisture moving in, and then that next tropical wave moving in. As far as rain goes, watching scattered showers back through the Bahamas. Rain chance not super high, it's gone down, but spotty showers. Same thing in Cuba, eastern end of Cuba, better chance of rain. Cayman Islands, Jamaica, some of us dry, some of us getting dumped on. That's going to be the pattern. If we get some rain, you see a little bit of white showing up. Same thing, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We'll have some spots around 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain. So while not all of us get the rain, where we do and where we get repeat showers, we could get some flooding. So if you get any flooding, put that in the comments. Watching the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, scattered areas of rain. A lot of this is today, watching out for some pockets of rain that could give us over 25 millimeters of rain or an inch of some rain. Then we swing to the south. We're going to eventually get some of that moisture starting to feed in on Saturday. Look at Trinidad and Tobago, giving you the heads up. We're about to work in to an active pattern, so I appreciate you spreading the word. We're going to see the rain starting to increase Saturday, but more so Sunday into early next week. Same thing, St. Lucia, Barbados. St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, northeastern Venezuela. We've got an active pattern headed our way, so we'll be watching that. Not as much Guyana and Suriname. Here are the heavier pockets, especially closer to the Pacific, parts of Panama, western Panama, Costa Rica, western Nicaragua, El Salvador, very interior Honduras, and Guatemala, especially closer to the Pacific. Some of the totals upwards of 150 millimeters of rain or 6 inches of rain. And monitoring the southern coast of Mexico, scattered about as we swing back through the Yucatan, Cancun, Cozumel, some areas of rain and storms. Could see a couple near Merida and Campeche, and watching western Mexico for a better chance of some rain. This in through here, not a whole lot yet, but by the weekend, we'll be watching that front coming through the Great Lakes. That could trigger some storms. We'll see how deep into the south that some of those get. So Jamaica, 50 to 60% chance of rain and storms, but some of those could be on the strong side. Same thing as we work our way back through the Cayman Islands. Maybe one island is dry, another one sees that passing shower or thunderstorm. That's what we'll be tracking leading into the weekend. Trinidad and Tobago may even raise that rain chance on Saturday if that moisture sneaks in a little bit sooner. But point being, what I showed you, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the rain chance is just going to be building back through Trinidad. Same thing in Barbados. We're going to be watching the weekend as some of that moisture gets closer, and then especially into next week. Short term, rain chance holding at about 40% in St. Lucia, and a 30 to 40% chance the next 3 days in Grenada, but we're about to get more active. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, rain chance 30 to 40% short term, 50% chance of rain around Martinique for today. And with that tail end of that area, Dominica, 60% chance as we go throughout the day ahead. Rain chance Guadeloupe, 60% today, 50% as we work our way into tomorrow. You see how it's elevated northern and northeastern Caribbean. Antigua, Bermuda, watching some of that rain that is around, giving you the heads up. We'll watch out for some downpours. St. Kitts and Nevis, this is really for the rest of today. Of course, some of us may have some of the rain and storms around now as you're watching, depending on when you're watching this. Anguilla and St. Bart's, rain chance staying elevated the next 2 days. St. Martin, Saba, and Statia tracking some pockets of rain and storms that will be possible at times. Same thing in Puerto Rico. Again, sometimes we're dry, sometimes we're seeing some rain and storms. We'll monitor some of that flooding as we work our way through the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. We'll as well get some pockets of rain for some of the islands as we go forward. Bahamas, rain chance has gone down. We're looking at about a 40% chance for today and a 40% chance over the next few days back through the Turks and Caicos. The Dominican Republic, again, it's higher. I mentioned some of the high rain totals. Flooding possible in the Dominican Republic, flooding possible in Haiti. Rain chance 60 to even 70% as we go over the next 3 days. Meanwhile, in Belize, we're running at about a 30 to 40% chance, 30 to 40% chance Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire. We could have a couple passing showers around. Even at night, there may be a few that sneak in. Rain chance will build a little bit as we work our way into Guyana, as we'll see some of that moisture getting closer. Suriname, rain chance about 30% for today. And I mentioned the eastern end of Cuba, better chance of some rain and storms. 80% chance in Costa Rica, Panama, really western Panama, watching out for some of the flooding. A 70% chance, especially western sections of Nicaragua and Honduras. Some spots dry, others seeing some of that flooding, especially as you get closer to Nicaragua. 70 to 80% chance still Guatemala and El Salvador. Mexico City by Saturday, rain chance bumps back up short term on the drier side. Yucatan Peninsula, as I mentioned, scattered areas of rain and storms continue. Northern Colombia, 50 to 60% chance, and it will be building some, especially northeastern Venezuela once we get into the weekend and for next week. In Bermuda, with that spin around, additional rain, especially tomorrow, some gustier winds, some higher seas. So we're tracking some areas of rain and storms right now. That strong tropical wave in the Atlantic, that'll enter the eastern Caribbean by Monday, and we'll monitor for some development as that area will be in the Caribbean into next week. So we'll be keeping an eye on that together. I hope you're doing well. Please be careful with some of the flooding. We're thinking of you. Have a really good Thursday ahead.